Alright, so there's this video, Joseph the Closest Man to Christ special event with Steve Ray. I take issue with this video. I think it's very poorly done. This is on William Albrecht's channel. William Albrecht is just a fantastic Catholic apologist. I highly suggest him. If you have nothing to do, watch William Albrecht. He's great and amazing and wonderful, and he is very dramatic and stuff. But let's listen to what Steve Ray has to say about the Blessed Family and make a few comments.
The Holy Family wakes up in the morning. They don't have an Apple phone to wake them up, or an iPhone. So it's probably the neighbor's rooster. I used to have chickens all my life. I've had chickens, and they woke us up in the morning. So what is the first thing the Holy Family does when they wake up in the morning? I love to ask groups this. I ask it every time in Nazareth. I've given this talk on the day of the life of the Holy Family 80 times in Nazareth. So I ask them, what is the first thing the Holy Family does in the morning? And they all say, pray. And I kind of chuckle, and I said, is that the first thing you do in the morning? And they all kind of look sheepish and go, well, no, I get up and go to the bathroom. And I said, and the Holy Family didn't do that? They're some kind of 3 feet off the ground. They don't have bodily functions. And and then I say, now, Mary and Joseph lived in a cave. There's no running water. There's no porcelain toilets. There's no toilet paper. What do? And everybody just has a sheepish look like, you can't talk about the Holy Family that way. And I said, yes, I can, because they were real people. They're not mythological. They are real people, lived in a real place with no running water, no modern conveniences. They lived in a cave, and they went out into the bushes or to a community latrine somewhere in the morning with the...
And that's as much as I want to listen to that. Now, is that true? So the question that Steve Ray has to actually talk about can be found in the Summa. Let's make this bigger. Boom. Question 106, the punishment of the first man's sin. Second part of the second part, Summa Theologica. Objection 1. It would seem that death is not the punishment of our first parent's sin, for that which is natural to man cannot be called a punishment of sin, because sin does not perfect nature but vitalizes it. Now death is natural to man, and this is evident both from the fact that his body is composed of contraries, because mortal is included in the definition of man. Therefore death is not a punishment of our first parent's sin. To which Aquinas responds, a thing that is said to be natural if it proceeds from the principles of nature. Now the essential principles of nature are form and matter, and the form of man is his rational soul, which is of itself immortal. Wherefore death is not natural to man on the part of his form. The matter of man is a body, and as such is composed of contraries, of which corruptibility is a necessary consequence, and in this respect death is natural to men. So Aquinas says, a being that has matter will die. He is stating the laws of entropy, and Jimmy Atkin also agrees with this, with objection 1, and he would agree with Steve Ray that Christ urinates, or that Christ goes to the bathroom. Now, on the contrary, Aquinas also says, by one man, or the apostle says in Romans 5:12, by one man sin entered into this world, and by sin death. I answer that if anyone on account of his fault be deprived of the favor bestowed on him, the privation of that favor is a punishment of that fault. Now we have stated elsewhere, God bestowed this favor on man in his primitive state, and that as long as his mind was subject to God, the lower powers of his soul would be subject to his rational mind, and his body to his soul. But inasmuch as through sin man's mind withdrew from subject to God, the result was that neither were his lower powers wholly subject to reason, hence followed so great a rebellion of the carnal appetite against the reason, nor was the body wholly subject to the soul, whence arose death and other bodily defects. For life and the soundness of the body, dependent on the body being subject to the soul, is as the perfectible is subject to its perfection. Excuse me. Consequently, on the other hand, death, sickness, and all defects of the body are due to the lack of the body's subjugation to the soul. It is therefore evident that as a rebellion of the carnal appetites against the spirit is a punishment of our first parent's sin, so also are death and all defects of the body. So now the question is going to the bathroom a defect in the body? Also the reasoning, which Steve Ray doesn't actually express in a good way, he says, they're human, we're human, they're not up in a cloud, they're down here on the earth with us, guess what they did in the morning? That's pretty much heresy. You can't say that and hold to the Immaculate Conception. Now maybe Steve Ray doesn't hold to the Immaculate Conception, but maybe he's an Eastern Orthodox. It just seems weird. You're like, oh, this person was perfectly preserved from sin and the effects of sin, which are death and all defects of the body. Okay. But the reason why I read the objection to, or reply to objection first once, is that there's not a simple and clear answer. There's two different ways to take it. You can take that all bodies necessarily are composed of contraries, and in that respect, they will die. Or you can take the other one, and all defects of the body are due to the lack of the body's subjugation to the soul. Now, Christ will have a perfect subjugation of the body to the soul. Christ doesn't think, oh man, I'm hungry. Growlin doesn't tell Christ to eat. Christ's rational mind instructs him to eat. So, in other words, Christ is like willpower to 9,000 level, whereas our level is like to 100. So, I had too many notes here. I was taught growing up that Mary never aged beyond 25. Now, how would that be possible, right? Is aging a part of sin? Well, the reply to objection 8, quoting Augustine, Aquinas says, although our first parents lived thereafter many years, they began to die on the day when they heard the death decree, condemning them to decline to old age. So it's not clear that even though man is eventually going to die, regardless of the fall, it's not clear that other things exist without the fall. It's not clear that old age exists. It's not clear that atrophy exists. It's not clear that things will break down in the body. So, let's talk about going to the bathroom. Okay, here we go. The science on poop. Poop is mostly water, but as much as 75% of the water of poop is water. Most 75% of everything is water in the human body. The human body is actually terribly inefficient at using water, and it's really good at recycling its own internal water source. So you got to wonder, right? If the body is really bad at using water, would a body not touched by original sin use water in the same way? You don't know. We don't know. So you can't really say they have to go. The next largest amount of stuff is biomass. It's dead cells, living cells from your gut. You're voiding out tons of microorganisms, right? And then the majority of what remains after that is undigested food. Carbohydrates or fiber, right? Now, fiber can be digested by certain types of microbiome. Human beings don't really contain enough of it to digest as much fiber as they eat. But we need to think this through, right? So we have me eating something, right? And therefore God eats the same thing the same way? Where's that written? Where does it say that God has the same exact movement of bowels? The logical reason that might work is because he's like a true human being. But like I said before, did Mary age beyond 25? There's no reason to think she did. What is the function? What is the function for her salvation that she should age? What is the function for her salvation that she had more than one cycle? At which produced our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. What's the function? Right? We have urges. We can't control them. Did God have urges that he couldn't control? Was he just flailing about helplessly? Oh, I wonder why I feel this way today. So you can think about it in this way, right? So I like to drink coffee. Steve Ray likes to drink coffee. William Albrecht likes to drink coffee. Christ must like to drink coffee. The coffee that we drink, and it could be the same coffee, all three of us, affects us all differently. Affects Christ differently. All three of us have different reasons to drink it. All three of us would have different outcomes when we drink it. Which one would understand this better than everyone would be Christ. So Christ can look at the coffee, and he's looking at it with the 200 plus IQ, and I'm looking at it at 130 IQ, and I go, oh man, this stuff is good, therefore I'm going to drink it. And he's like, no, it's going to give me this effect later on. Why would I bother drinking it? So it's not clear to me that God can't reason things out 2 and 3 times better than the rest of us. God's pretty much Christ is Magnus Carlsen, and we're all a bunch of 1,100 players who can't find the 4 squares in the middle of the board, and we're like, no, but Magnus Carlsen is human, and I'm human, so I can do whatever he can do, and he can do whatever I can do. It's no. Until you're elevated, you're not in a position to say that. And as Aquinas says, if the body is wholly subject to the rational soul, and Christ is the perfect rational soul, maybe Christ knows a little bit more about the human body than we do. On basic logic, why he would have to go to the bathroom. You can't say, well, he's going to go every single day. Why? Why can't he have a better body than us? Because Steve Ray is a middle-aged man. He's a boomer, therefore everyone's a boomer. Don't put God, who's supposed to be so much better than us, don't put him on a little box. Instead, don't talk about things you don't know about and you can't know about. Because you weren't there, and it's not written down anywhere. So, in summary, I would argue that because of it's more honorable to God to say that he didn't poop, therefore he didn't. That's a better argument than I do, therefore he does.